Long ago, 40,000 years in the past, humans disappeared from the stars. No one knew how, and no one ever found the truth. Some said they destroyed themselves. Others said they went too far into the void and never returned. For the younger alien races, humans became only a story, a name in old records, a shadow that had no shape. Generations passed. Empires rose and fell. The galaxy was full of life, but humans were gone. To most people, they were nothing but a myth. But myths have power. Deep in the forgotten corners of space, a signal started to move again. It was weak at first, like the heartbeat of something ancient. No one expected it. No one was ready for it. The signal spread from a dark system that no one visited anymore, a system with no living worlds and no light. The waves of the signal touched the scanners of a patrol ship that was passing nearby. At first the crew thought it was noise, just empty radiation. But when they listened closer, the noise had a pattern. And inside the pattern were words. Only 2 words. 2 words that made the crew sit in silence. The words were clear. We remember. The news reached the Alien Council within hours. The Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They thought nothing could surprise them anymore. But the idea of humans speaking again made them uneasy. They gathered in a great hall made of silver and glass, their voices echoing across the chamber. One by one, leaders spoke. They asked the same question. Who sent this? Who remembers? The humans were gone. Every record agreed on that. The council demanded answers, but no one had any. The signal was strong, but its source was old, buried in the ruins of a forgotten world. Some wanted to ignore it. They said chasing ghosts would bring only fear. But others felt danger in the words. They knew humans were never simple. Even dead, they could still shake the galaxy. The council sent a fleet to investigate. A group of explorers and scientists traveled to the system of silence. Their ships moved through the darkness, guided only by the broken signal. As they entered the dead system, the stars around them seemed colder. Planets here were nothing but stone and ash. Yet their scanners showed activity. Something was alive, or at least awake. In the orbit of a shattered planet, they found a station. The design was human. Ancient, but still standing. Its walls were black and burned, but light still glowed in hidden corners. Machines older than empires still worked. The explorers moved inside with caution. The air was dead. The silence was heavy. Every step echoed like thunder. They found halls full of metal skeletons, broken screens, and forgotten weapons. But deep inside, behind sealed doors, they reached a chamber. In the center was a machine that was not broken. It had been waiting. Its surface was covered with dust, but when they entered, the dust shook. Lights awakened, glowing red and blue. A voice filled the chamber, a voice that did not sound like theirs. It was human. Cold, calm, and heavy. The words were clear. You should not have come. The explorers froze. No one had heard a human voice for 40,000 years. Their translators almost failed to catch the tone. The voice came again, stronger. You should not have come. This place is not for you. The explorers asked who was speaking. They asked if humans were alive. But the machine did not answer directly. Instead, it started to scan them, beams of light cutting across their bodies, searching, measuring. The explorers felt fear. It was not a simple machine. It was a guardian. One of the scientists tried to shut down the system, but the machine reacted instantly. The chamber filled with sound, like metal grinding against stone. The walls lit up with images. For the first time in 40,000 years, the explorers saw the human mark. Records of war, fire, and destruction played across the screens. Battles where human fleets destroyed enemies larger and stronger than them. Weapons that no other race had ever built. The explorers felt small as they watched. And the machine spoke again. The masters are coming back. The chamber went silent. The explorers looked at each other, confused and afraid. Was it a warning? Was it a threat? They could not know. But one thing was clear. Humans had left something behind, something that did not forget. The message we remember was not a mistake. It was not a ghost. It was real. And if the machine was telling the truth, then the galaxy was not as safe as everyone thought. The humans were not gone. They were waiting. The explorers returned to their ships with the words of the machine echoing in their minds. The masters are coming back. They carried fragments of data, strange codes, and old images of human wars. But what frightened them most was not what they saw, but what they felt. The machine had spoken as if it was alive. It had spoken with certainty, not like an echo from the past, but like a warning of the future. When the fleet reported back, the council chamber was silent for a long time. The leaders had no wish to believe it. For ages they had told their people that humans were only shadows of history. For ages they had ruled without fear of them. To accept this message was to admit they were wrong. Still, the words we remember spread like fire. Across the empire, common people whispered about humans again. Stories of the old race returned to every corner of the galaxy. Children repeated the message as if it were a tale. Soldiers asked if they were ready for what was coming. Fear grew quietly, and no one could stop it. Some leaders demanded the machines be destroyed. They said this was nothing but old programming, repeating dead voices from long ago. But others disagreed. They reminded the council of what humans once were. They spoke of the records that showed humans fighting enemies much stronger than themselves and still winning. They spoke of human ships that crossed the darkest parts of space where no other race dared to travel. If the machines were still alive after 40,000 years, then maybe the humans who built them had planned something greater. To find the truth, the council sent another mission. This time, it was not only explorers but warships. They wanted to see if more human machines were still awake. They wanted to know how much power was left behind. The fleet moved carefully through the void, following the codes they had taken from the first machine. The codes led them deeper, into systems long forgotten. Stars with no names, planets broken and abandoned, places where no one had lived for ages. On the third world they searched, the fleet discovered something vast. It was not a station this time but a city. A human city, buried under stone and ash. The buildings were ruined, but the design was clear. Tall towers, wide bridges, and great halls stood in silence. The ships scanned the surface and found strange energy flowing beneath the ruins, as if the city itself was alive. The soldiers landed with caution. Their boots touched the soil of a world that humans once walked. Inside the ruins, the soldiers moved like shadows. Dust covered everything. Broken machines lay in every corner. But when they entered the heart of the city, they felt the same chill as before. Something was waiting. The ground trembled as old machines began to stir. One by one, metal guardians rose from the dust. Their bodies were shaped like statues, but their eyes burned with light. They surrounded the soldiers without speaking. Then, as before, a voice spoke through the air. It was human. Cold. Clear. You search for us. You fear us. But you cannot erase us. The soldiers raised their weapons, but the machines did not attack. Instead, images appeared in the sky above the city. Stars, maps, and lines of fire stretched across the black. The explorers watched in silence as the images formed the shape of a human fleet, larger than anything they had seen before. Then the voice spoke again. They will rise when the time is right. Humanity waits in silence, but humanity never dies. The soldiers returned to their ships in fear. They knew they had found something greater than a myth. They carried back more data, more codes, and more images of old power. When the council saw the recordings, many leaders could no longer deny the truth. If this was only the work of machines, then why did it feel alive? Why did the voices speak as if humans were still watching? One leader, older than the rest, stood before the council and reminded them of a saying from ancient records. Humans do not vanish. Humans endure. The council argued through the night. Some wished to seal all the systems where human ruins were found. Others wanted to destroy the ruins before they grew stronger. But there were those who whispered another idea, more dangerous than all. What if humans were not gone at all? What if they had left the galaxy only to return when the time was right? No one in the chamber could answer. But far away, in the forgotten worlds of silence, more machines began to awaken. Old signals crossed the stars once again. And for the first time in 40,000 years, the galaxy felt the shadow of humans returning. The awakening of the second city spread fear across the galaxy. The recordings of human voices, the machines rising from dust, the promise of a fleet waiting to return, all of it traveled faster than the council could control. Ordinary people began to wonder if their rulers had lied for ages. Soldiers whispered about battles they were not ready for. Merchants avoided routes near old human systems. Even pirates stayed away. Everyone felt the same question pressing on their minds. Were humans truly gone, or were they still out there, watching? The council tried to silence the fear, but silence could not hold back the truth. More signals appeared. In different corners of space, fragments of human code began to wake up. Some were only echoes, broken pieces repeating the same words. Others were stronger, calling out warnings in voices that felt too real to ignore. We remember. We endure. The masters are coming back. Every new message made the fear grow deeper. To study these signals, the council created a special team of scientists and spies. They were ordered to break the codes, to learn what the machines were trying to say. For months they worked in hidden chambers, staring at endless lines of symbols and strange sounds. At first they found nothing but fragments of old data. But then, late one night, one of the scientists unlocked something buried deep inside the code. It was not just a message. It was a command, written in a language no alien had ever seen. The command was not meant for them. It was meant for human ships. The discovery shook the team. If the command could be activated, then somewhere in the darkness, human ships were still waiting to obey. Some of the scientists begged the council to leave the codes alone. They feared what might happen if the signal reached its destination. But others were too curious. They wanted to know if humans had truly built weapons that could survive 40,000 years. The council debated again, their voices heavy with anger and fear. But while they argued, something happened that no one expected. In a small system far from the core, a group of traders reported seeing a ship unlike any they had ever known. It was massive, its hull black and scarred, its engines glowing with ancient fire. It did not answer hails. It did not carry any known markings. The traders said it moved like a predator, silent and slow. They barely escaped before it vanished into the dark. When the news reached the council, panic spread. Could it be true? Had the first human ship already awakened? War fleets were dispatched to search for it. Dozens of ships scanned the system where it had been seen, but they found nothing. The hunters searched further, but space is vast, and the ship was gone. Yet the story could not be erased. The traders' voices carried across the stars. They swore what they saw was real. They swore the ship looked alive, as if it was waiting for its masters to return. Meanwhile, the scientists made another discovery. Hidden within the human codes were images of faces. Human faces. They were not drawings or statues. They were recordings, as clear as if the people were still alive. Men and women stared from the data, their eyes bright, their voices frozen in time. Some of them spoke in short bursts, words that were translated with difficulty. The messages were not simple greetings. They were warnings. To those who find this, do not wake us. To those who listen, do not follow. But if you do, remember this. Humanity does not die. The council grew desperate. Some demanded the ruins be destroyed immediately before more machines awoke. Others feared that such an act would only trigger whatever was hidden. Still others, hungry for power, whispered in secret that the old human weapons could be used for themselves. If humans were truly gone, why should their creations remain locked away? The galaxy was on edge. Armies stood ready, but against what, no one knew. Rumors spread of other sightings, shadows of ships moving through dead systems, faint signals calling in the dark. Every report was dismissed as lies, yet each one made the fear grow stronger. And then, without warning, one of the codes broke itself open. Across a dozen systems, the same words appeared on screens, in transmissions, in the very air of the machines. They will rise. Humanity waits. Humanity watches. The leaders of the council stared at the words, unable to speak. If the humans were only myths, then who was writing these messages now? If they were dead, then who was watching? And if they were alive, then where were they hiding? For the first time in 40,000 years, the galaxy felt something it had not felt before. It was not war, not yet. It was not hope, not yet. It was the shadow of something greater, something no one could control. It was the shadow of humanity returning. The council could no longer hide the truth. The words humanity waits had spread across every corner of the galaxy. No wall of silence could stop them. Whole worlds whispered of humans as if they were gods about to return. Soldiers grew restless, wondering if they would soon face an enemy from legends. Scholars searched through the oldest archives, trying to learn who humans really were, beyond the fragments of myth. For the first time in ages, the rulers of the galaxy felt powerless. Among the archives, one discovery stood out. A hidden vault on a distant world contained human war records sealed in crystal. The records were not simple text. They were full recordings of ancient battles. Alien researchers watched in silence as the scenes unfolded. Human fleets, smaller in number, faced armadas far greater than themselves. But humans did not retreat. They fought with a fire that seemed to burn brighter than fear. Ships that should have fallen stood firm. Weapons that should have failed struck with deadly precision. Again and again, the records showed the same truth. Humans did not win because of strength. They won because they refused to surrender. The researchers carried this knowledge to the council, but instead of comfort, it brought dread. If humans had once fought like this, then what would happen if they returned now? The galaxy had grown used to peace. The great powers had grown used to control. Could they survive the storm of a race that never accepted defeat? As these questions spread, more ruins began to awaken. Whole networks of human machines lit up across abandoned systems. They sent signals into the dark, connecting with each other as if forming a web. The council tried to send fleets to destroy them, but the machines were not defenseless. On one world, when warships opened fire on a human station, the station responded with weapons older than their empires. Beams of white light cut through the attackers. Ships that had ruled the stars for centuries were reduced to ash in seconds. Only a few survivors escaped to tell the tale. Their words sent fear racing through the galaxy. The machines were not waiting to be destroyed. They were preparing. And worse, they spoke again, their voices carrying across the stars. The masters are not gone. The masters will return. The council now stood divided. Some leaders begged for peace. They said if humans were returning, the galaxy must welcome them, not fight them. Others demanded total war, saying humans were too dangerous to live again. But there were whispers in the shadows of a third group, a secret faction that did not want to fight or surrender. They wanted to take human power for themselves. If the machines could be controlled, if the ships could be commanded, then whoever held them could rule everything. While the council argued, another event shook the galaxy. In a border system, miners reported finding a massive object buried beneath the surface of an asteroid. At first they thought it was stone. But when scanners went deeper, they saw metal, human metal. The object was a ship. Larger than any ship the miners had ever seen. Its hull was silent, its engines cold, but its presence was undeniable. The council sent fleets to secure it, but when they arrived, the ship was already waking. Its engines flickered with blue light. Its hull groaned like a beast breathing for the first time. And then, slowly, it began to rise. The fleet surrounded it, weapons armed, but none dared fire. The sight of the ancient human ship shook them to their core. It did not attack, but it did not flee. Instead, a signal burst from it, spreading across the stars like a storm. The words were simple, but heavy with meaning. We are not gone. We were watching. We are coming. Every screen, every device, every machine in the nearby systems carried the same message. Billions of people saw it at once. Whole planets froze in fear. The galaxy had no more doubts. Humans were not only remembered. They were returning. The question now was not if, but when. Would they rise as allies or as conquerors? Would they bring hope or bring war? The galaxy did not know. But in the silence that followed, one truth was clear. The age of forgetting was over. The age of humanity was beginning again. The awakening of the great human ship shattered the balance of the galaxy. No one could pretend anymore. No one could say humans were only myths. The signal from the ship had spread too far, burned too deep. Whole civilizations trembled. Armies stood ready, but against what, they did not know. Every leader asked the same question in secret. Were the humans returning to save the galaxy, or to rule it once more? The ancient ship drifted through space like a giant from another age. It did not answer calls, but it did not hide either. Wherever it moved, fleets followed at a distance, afraid to get too close. The ship did not attack, yet its silence was louder than war. Its hull was scarred with battles from ages long past, but it still looked alive, as if it had been waiting for this very moment. Scientists studied the signals coming from the ship, desperate to learn more. The codes were stronger now, filled with energy that no one could break. They pulsed like a heartbeat, growing faster as if the ship was preparing for something. And hidden deep inside the codes, one of the scientists found a voice. A human voice, recorded long ago, yet it spoke as if it had been waiting for someone to listen. The words were simple. Humanity does not die. Humanity waits. Humanity watches. The council held another meeting, but there was no peace in the chamber. Some leaders demanded the ship be destroyed before more could awaken. Others argued that destroying it would only bring more danger. A few stood silent, knowing the truth: they did not have the power to destroy it. The weapons of the galaxy had failed against smaller human machines. How could they hope to defeat a ship the size of a city? As the council fought with words, the galaxy itself began to change. In abandoned systems, more ruins lit up. Old stations, silent for ages, came alive again. Entire networks of machines started to move as if they had been waiting for a single command. On one distant world, explorers watched in shock as hundreds of human drones rose from the ground, their engines screaming as they vanished into the sky. On another, the surface of a dead planet cracked open, revealing hidden bunkers full of human technology. It was as if the galaxy itself had been seeded with their presence, waiting to wake after 40,000 years. Fear spread faster than light. Civilizations began to arm themselves, preparing for war they could not understand. Old alliances broke apart as worlds chose sides. Some swore they would resist the humans if they returned. Others prepared to kneel, believing humans would become rulers once more. And still others dreamed of joining them, hoping to share in their power. Then came the most shocking event of all. In the deep void beyond the council's reach, an ancient human fleet began to stir. Not just one ship, not just a handful, but dozens. Their shapes were massive and terrifying, their hulls glowing faintly as their systems awakened. The fleet moved in silence, slow and steady, like predators testing the air. Their engines burned with power unseen for ages. And as they rose, the machines across the galaxy sent one final message together. The Masters are coming back. The word spread across every screen, every device, every channel. Entire worlds froze in fear. Families held each other close, children cried, soldiers whispered prayers. Even the most powerful rulers felt small. The galaxy had never known unity, but in that moment, they all felt the same chill. Something greater than them was returning. Something that had shaped history before and would shape it again. Yet no one knew what the return truly meant. Were humans coming back as saviors, bringing hope to the stars? Or were they coming back as conquerors, ready to take everything that had been built in their absence? The silence of the ships gave no answer. The codes gave no promise. All the galaxy had was the shadow of their return, and the memory of what humans once were. And so, the galaxy waited. Fleets stood ready. Planets held their breath. Civilizations prepared for the unknown. Somewhere in the deep dark, the ancient human fleet moved closer, their engines glowing brighter, their voices carried by machines that had never forgotten. Humanity had been gone for 40,000 years. But now, the age of waiting was over. They were coming back. The swarm did not forget. The humans had struck them and left wounds where no wounds should exist. Never before had the machines retreated, never before had they lost more than they gained. Now the swarm adapted with a new hunger. It gathered in greater numbers, learning from every human strike, preparing to crush them in one final blow. The council feared what was coming. They begged the humans to hide, to flee, to buy more time. But the humans only smiled. Time is nothing, their commander said. The only thing that matters is the fight. Soon, the swarm came again. This time it was not a wave, it was a storm. Hundreds of billions of machines darkened the stars. Their endless forms blotted out light as they closed on the human fleet. The alien observers whispered that this was the end. Even humans could not stand against such a tide. The battle began. Human ships darted into the Black Sea once more, their movements sharp and unpredictable. For a time, it worked. They cut through the machines, burning them apart, leaving trails of fire across the void. But the swarm was learning faster. Every trick humans used, the swarm twisted into a trap. Every sacrifice, every bold strike, the machines answered with perfect counters. One by one, human ships fell. Explosions tore the darkness, bright but brief. Crews gave their lives without hesitation, yet the tide was too great. The aliens watching gripped their consoles in despair. They had believed the humans were unbreakable. But now, even the humans were being swallowed. On the flagship, the commander stood among chaos. Reports screamed of losses, of systems failing, of entire squadrons gone. Yet his voice stayed calm. "Do not retreat," he said. "If they adapt to our tactics, then we must adapt faster." And the humans did. Their battle was not a straight line. It twisted, shifted, bent into madness. They used their own falling ships as weapons, detonating reactors in patterns that cut holes through the swarm. They faked retreats only to strike deeper. They jammed their own signals, blinding the machines before stabbing through their hearts. Every move was risk, every choice paid in blood. But slowly, impossibly, it began to work. The swarm pressed harder, confident of victory. But that confidence became its weakness. The humans lured it into traps so reckless no other species would dare attempt them. A single cruiser dove into the core of the swarm, broadcasting false signals that drew billions of machines inward. Then, at the exact moment, it exploded, tearing a hole across the swarm's center. The aliens gasped as the impossible happened. For the first time, the swarm broke formation. It scattered, confused, disoriented. And the humans pounced. Every surviving ship surged forward, striking with precision, cutting deep into the machines before they could recover. The turning point had come. The swarm, for all its endless numbers and perfect adaptation, was too slow against human madness. No machine could predict choices so reckless, so full of chaos, so willing to burn everything for one chance at victory. The swarm was logic, pure and cold. The humans were something else. They were fury. The aliens who watched could not believe it. Their fleets had fallen because they tried to fight like soldiers, like survivors. The humans fought like predators, like hunters who did not care if they bled as long as the prey fell first. The difference was terrifying, but it was working. When the battle ended, space was filled with wreckage. Thousands of human lives had been lost. Their fleet was broken, but the swarm had suffered more than ever before. For the first time in history, the galaxy saw the enemy stumble. The swarm retreated, its endless tide pulled back, leaving behind trails of shattered machines. On the flagship, the commander stood among the wounded and the weary. His face was marked by burns, his uniform torn, but his eyes burned with fire. "Do you see?" he said to the council who listened through the comms. "They can be beaten. Not because we are stronger. Not because we are smarter. But because we do not stop." Those words spread across the stars. Species that had given up hope now felt a spark. The humans had proven what none believed possible. The swarm could be hurt. It could be forced to retreat. And if it could retreat, then one day, it could be destroyed. But that hope came with fear. The aliens whispered among themselves. If humans could fight like this against the swarm, what would they do against the rest of the galaxy once the war was done? Could such fire ever be controlled? Could such fury ever sleep again? The humans did not care for such questions. For them, the war had only begun. They would bleed, they would burn, but they would never stop. And the swarm, for the first time in its endless existence, had met an enemy that refused to die.